Good morning and welcome to the March 28th regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. We do begin our meetings with an invocation, and today we have Bernadette Wilkie with Boulder Street Church to join us and lead us in that. Feel free to join if you wish.
Thank you. Good morning. Let's pray. Lord God of heaven, as we gather to meet over the governing of El Paso County, we want to express our thankfulness to you for your many blessings. Thank you for your protections and provisions. We are also mindful of tragedy and grief and loss going on around us. We pray for our schools and our children. Please keep them safe from evil and harm. We pray also for our teachers, our law enforcement, first responders, and medical personnel. Bless them with your protection and renew their sense of calling to serve your people here. We ask for your strength for the suffering, peace where there is strife, and justice for the oppressed. We appeal to heaven for the truth to be revealed. We ask not just for the understanding of the issues that need to be addressed here, but also for the wisdom to bring just and lasting solutions. It can sometimes seem to be overwhelming to consider all the problems surrounding us, but we look up to you and ask that you make El Paso County a light in times of darkness, to lift our community, to bring hope, faith, and love to those around us. And we ask all of this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Mr. Reed, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance today?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
For which it stands.
one nation.
Thank you for letting me put you on the spot like that. All right, item number 3.
Item number 3 is staff emergency items, and there are no emergency items today.
Item number 4.
Item number 4 is changes, postponements, and notice of the next meeting. I'm aware of one change. Item number 9 will be considered after item number 5. We have a meeting for the Pioneer Village Roads Public Improvement District, and the next regular meeting will be April 4th at 9, and again at 1 for land use.
And that brings us to item number 5.
Item number 5 is the consent calendar consisting of 5A1 through 5M2.
Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on items 5A1 through 5M2? Any online? Okay, hearing none, I'll bring it up here for comments and a motion.
I would move approval of items 5A1 to item 5M2. I just wanted to point out there's a couple things in here. The Slash and Mulch, which runs in Black Forest every year, one of my favorite programs. And then also there's a Highway 105 contract amendment, so we can get that project going this year.
Great, that has been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I will call the roll. Any other comments from commissioners? Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf?
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The consent calendar passes 5-0. And then our clerk read that we were taking an item out of order, so that brings us to item number 9.
Item number 9 is the proclamation recognizing the retirement of Jim Reed, Stan Vanderwerf, Commissioner, Board of County Commissioners.
May I proceed? Thank you. Mr. Reed, if you could come up, and anybody else that you'd like to bring up with you, please come to the podium. Always good timing, isn't it? What I'd like to do is go ahead and make the motion for this proclamation, and then I'll seek a second. So this morning, I'd like to make a motion to approve the proclamation recognizing the retirement of Jim Reed. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of El Paso County, Colorado hereby acknowledges the retirement of Jim Reed after more than 20 years of service to the region as a member of the El Paso County Sheriff's Office, Director of Public Works, and the inaugural Director of the Pikes Peak Regional Office of Emergency Management. And whereas after a career in the United States Air Force, Mr. Reed was hired as a Deputy Fire Marshal by the El Paso County Sheriff's Office, where he supported the establishment of the South Central Homeland Security Region Program with the City of Colorado Springs and Lake, Park, Chaffee, and Teller counties, established the office's Incident Command System, and obtained Homeland Security grants that brought vital equipment needed to respond to emergencies in the region. And whereas Mr. Reed worked with State Representatives Marsha Looper, Republican from Calhan, and Diane Primavera, Democrat from Broomfield, to write and implement House Bill 1018, as well as chair the resulting State Waste Tire Board, which provided grants to fire departments throughout the state to manage and clean up waste tire sites that posed potential fire risk to communities. And whereas during his time as the Emergency Services Division Commander at the Sheriff's Office, Mr. Reed also oversaw the office's emergency response to multiple disasters, including leading the initial responses to the TA-25 fire on Fort Carson and the Waldo Canyon fire, as well as managed floods, blizzards, and countless other events. And whereas in 2013, Mr. Reed was selected as the Executive Director of the El Paso County Department of Public Works, which oversees over 4,000 miles of paved and gravel road infrastructure spanning a landmass roughly the size of the state of Delaware. And whereas as Executive Director, Mr. Reed created education programs that helped employees gain necessary certification through on-the-job training, reconstituted the bridge deck crew, which resulted in significant cost savings to the county, implemented a vehicle monitoring program that tracks staff accountability, revamped the county safety program, and established the reclaimer operation to better manage gravel roads. And whereas when the county's emergency management program migrated from the Sheriff's Office to the Department of Public Works, Mr. Reed continued to manage the county's response to various emergency situations, including leading the recovery efforts of the Black Forest Fire and leading the county's response to the 2013 Manitou Springs flash floods, the 2016 hailstorms, and the windstorm of 2017. And whereas in early 2019, the City of Colorado Springs and El Paso County, recognizing that disasters and emergencies affect people without respect to jurisdictional lines, announced that the emergency management departments of each organization would be merged into a joint office known as the Pikes Peak Office of Emergency Management, or PPROEM, with the goal of promoting response efficiencies and coordination. And whereas Mr. Reed was co-selected by the City of Colorado Springs and El Paso County to serve as the inaugural director of the Pikes Peak Office of Emergency Management, and whereas as director of PPROEM, Mr. Reed oversaw the regional response to the bomb cyclone in 2019, the civil disturbances of 2020, and the department's 2.5-year efforts to mitigate the global COVID-19 pandemic, established the Urban Area Security Initiative between El Paso County, the City of Colorado Springs, and Teller County, as well as the merger of 2 different emergency management organizations into an operation that readily serves over 737,000 people. Now, therefore, the Board of County Commissioners of El Paso County, Colorado, hereby proclaims its gratitude for Jim Reed and his years of dedication and service to our nation, state, and region, and expresses its best wishes to him as he retires. Done this 28th day of March 2023 at Colorado Springs, Colorado, the Board of County Commissioners of El Paso County, Colorado, signed Cammie Bremer, Chair, Carrie Geithner, Vice Chair, Lejinos Gonzalez Jr., Stan Vanderwerf, and Holly Williams, members, and attested to and signed by Steve Schleicher, County Clerk and Recorder. Do I have a second?
Second?
That has been moved and seconded. And I think that brings us to the point of, are there any members of the public wishing to speak on this proclamation for Jim Reed's retirement? Please state your name for the record.
All right.
And the roasting may begin.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chuck Bromer, the treasurer. I want to congratulate Jim for his many years of service to our community, not only in your service to our country in the military, but your continued service here for the citizens of El Paso County. As the county clerk, we called on you from time to time to help us in situations, most notably during the pandemic. You were a great help in your organizations in that. And then most recently in 2022 in the June primary, we had a drop box out at Tiffany Square Mall. And they had done some construction there and made it a little tenuous for people to come to our drop boxes. You made use of one of your mobile command centers so that we could have our election judges out there so they wouldn't bake in the sun for 10, 12 hours a day while we helped assist citizens with their franchise. You've always been a short phone call away, always willing to help. However, you're not the greatest prognosticator when it comes to weather. It's something that I had to needle Jim over the years. He said, "Oh, it's going to be bad, Chuck. You're not going to be open." And I really wanted to open. Jim said, "No, it's not going to open," and we get like a little dusting. So, it was always a point of needling Jim a little bit about his weather forecasting ability. So I don't predict that you probably are going to take a stint at one of the local TV or radio stations doing weather. No. All right. Well, congratulations. Thank you for a great job.
Thank you. Good morning, Commission. Joe Roybal, Sheriff. Jim and I go way back. I first witnessed his skill, his ability, and his leadership in the Waldo Canyon and then Black Forest fires. I was part of the PIO team back then and witnessed firsthand how he managed those and really helped the citizens of El Paso County. As you know, it's the sheriff's responsibility as fire warden. And this gentleman here behind me did a great job for then Sheriff Makita in keeping the residents of El Paso County safe. And I, Jim, appreciate everything you taught me and took the time with me then to teach me back then as a sergeant. What you were doing, and I take that with me now, and those were lessons well learned and hard lessons. And I too will miss our 4 a.m. phone conversations about the weather and what it looks like out east. Jim and I live in close proximity to one another, so we give the report of what it looks like out east. So thank you for your leadership and service to the citizens of El Paso County. I don't think the community knows how much Jim did during those 2 incidents, especially during Black Forest Fire. But I am well aware, and I will not forget, Jim. Congratulations. Thank you, sir.
Are there any others wishing to make any comments? Mr. Olson's heading down.
Good morning, Commissioners. I would like to congratulate Jim. I first met Jim in 2012, and I think it was about midnight. We were at Holmes Middle School when the Waldo Canyon fire was happening, and this guy comes walking in with a sleeping bag, and he's getting ready to set up camp in the command center there. And little to know that I was going to be actually working with him again and next year with Black Forest Fire and 2 other floods and mile marker 117 fire. And gosh, Jim's done a lot for this community and a lot for the people. And I really appreciate what he's done and all the things I've learned from him. Jim, I wish you the very best and on your new adventures. I'm sure there's a lot of RVing going on with that. Oh, yeah. But thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And while our next audience member is coming down, I actually was asked to read a few comments this morning from our clerk and recorder, Steve Schleicher, was kind of emergently unable to be here this morning, but he took the time to write down some words and asked me to share them with you. So, Jim, your career ride may have been a roller coaster ride. We've gone through tough times together, worked with one another on 2012 Waldo Canyon fire, the 2013 Black Forest fire, our 2015 floods and landslides on the west side of Colorado Springs, the 117 fire, the numerous hailstorms, and many other natural disasters throughout the years. However, we've seen many better days together. Now look who made it first. Congratulations on your retirement. You've worked so hard to earn this milestone. May this journey refresh and strengthen you. And again, that's from Steve Schleicher, our clerk and recorder.
Good morning, Marnie Klaber, and I'm here representing Public Health today. But this is a shout out for Jim. I also have worked with Jim through emergency preparedness and response activities over the years, starting in Waldo Canyon, et cetera, et cetera. But of course, obviously the pandemic was the occasion for which our agencies, our groups worked most closely together. And I don't know if everybody knows this about what Jim did during pandemic, but in needing to house individuals experiencing homelessness who had COVID, we went kind of up and down with what was available to us to place individuals in the community. And I can't thank Jim enough for literally hitting the ground on his feet and knocking on doors and going to motels and hotels himself in this community to try to meet that need of those individuals and of the health department. So I very much appreciate all he has done to support public health down to pounding on doors. So thank you so much, Jim.
Are there any other audience members that would like to speak? And are there any online? Okay.
Brought some notes because I always get really what I want to say. Many of you don't know, but Public Works, when Jim was leading it, was not just transportation or engineering. And I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce myself, Jennifer Irvin, Department of Public Works. But when Jim was leading the Department of Public Works at the time, we had engineering, highway, I wrote it down because I can never remember it, facilities, procurement, security, county emergency management, and hazardous hazmat. So, and I'm sure he'll correct me if I forgot any of them, but we were much larger back then, and Jim had so much responsibility and really made sure that his people were supported. So I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your leadership. Words cannot say how much I value our relationship. His number one priority has always been service above self, safety, and just taking care of the people, whether it's you commissioners, county administrator, his staff, and also just the citizens of the county. From his leadership example, we've learned significant things in the Department of Public Works. A leader has to be ready to understand change and embrace it. Leadership is about vision, carrying the flag, and a leader has to be optimistic and have courage. Credibility, honesty, and trust are critical, but really leadership is about relationships. And those are the things that Jim cultivated, not only within the county, but outside in the community. And by those examples, I know that so many people have become leaders in the county and just been supported by him. We went through so many disasters, and Jim was at the helm and made sure that everybody was supported, whether it was elected officials, staff, or the citizens. And so I was recently reading a book, one of my favorites, John Maxwell, and I think it epitomizes what Jim is all about. Achievement comes when you do things for yourself. Success comes when you empower followers to do great things with you. Significant comes when you develop leaders to do great things for you. And a legacy is created only when you put your organization into the position to do great things without you. Thanks, Jim, for doing everything that you have for this community, and thanks, Jeanette, for being back there and supporting him all the way.
Is there anyone else? Jim, you are up.
Right. I'm just grateful no one brought up my my candor, I guess is the proper word. One of the staff gave me a filter, and I forgot the darn thing, so just bear with me if you wouldn't mind. First and foremost, before I start my comments, I want to thank my beautiful wife, Jeanette, for her support. Jeanette, I'm grateful your support, honey. You've always been there for me, and I just can't thank you enough, and I love you. Commissioner Gonzalez, if you think you had a hard time putting up with me, you got to feel bad for the wife. You know, I've been blessed to serve our country and our community for 43 years combined. My entire professional career has been doing what I'm most passionate about and something I've wanted to do my whole life, and that's fight fire and protecting and preserving life. It's always been what I wanted to do as a kid, and I was able to do that in the Air Force, and I was able to do that here thanks to you folks, and so I'm grateful for that. I was appointed and served as the El Paso County Fire Marshal and Director of the Office of Emergency Management for nearly a decade. And during my very first OEM activation, I realized the strength of the county administration's commitment to ensure an integrated response with all county departments to protect life and property. It was strong back in 2003. And really, this was facilitated by then County Administrator Mr. Terry Harris. His direction to all county departments was that during an emergency, OEM Director / Commander Reed is in charge, and we will fully support any and all activations. Just that one support alone helped us turn OEM around from where it was when I first got it to where it is today, and I can't thank Mr. Harris enough for that. That integration was critical for our success here in El Paso County because it created a standard of collaboration during all hazard responses and challenges that we face in our community. I've had the great pleasure of working with some extraordinary professionals in both Sheriff's Office. Thank you. It's kind of fun to see Sheriff Roybal and Under Sheriff Kramer and Commander Prem, is that correct? Yeah, that's wonderful. Bureau Chief, oh, that's even better. But congratulations, it's happy to see you guys there, and it's been a long run, and I'm just very proud of you guys. But also county staff. I earned the trust and confidence of county leadership to serve as County Fire Marshal, Director of Office of Emergency Management, Deputy Sheriff, and Executive Director of the Department of Public Works. In 2003, Mr. Harris had discussed the vision of possibly combining the OEMs, but it lasted for about a minute and kind of went away. And you know, how fortuitous is that? 18 years later, we're doing it, right? And so it was a little bit before its time. In 2018, both city and county leadership explored a regional OEM, which was implemented in February. And I believe Commissioner Gonzalez and Commissioner Vanderwerf, you were on that board, is that correct? And at the direction in 2019, at the direction of Board of County Commissioners and Mayor John Suthers and City Council, this memorialized with the past and current partnership agreement establishing the Pikes Peak Regional Office of Emergency Management. We went to work consolidating teams together as a single entity serving our region. This mission was supported by and operational direction was provided by then County Administrator Henry Yankowski and City Chief of Staff, Mr. Jeff Green. I was charged with the mission and we completed it successfully, regardless of the organizational cultural challenges typical with such endeavors. It was well worth the endeavor. This consolidation was a force multiplication in our ability to support our community as a single entity with a single message and a single purpose of protecting our community. Our facility, believe it or not, the state uses it, fire departments use it, everybody uses that facility to hold their training. So what a wonderful center that we've created for the community. All of that happened because the staff involved, this is important, the staff involved in the consolidation and the support that was received from leadership, This team is well on their way to national accreditation. The foundation has been laid, and it'll be a pleasure to watch this team move forward and grow in the years to come. In my personal and professional experience, success is defined as a cooperative and collaborative work product developed and implemented by mature professionals to protect life and property during my military service and during my public service in local government. Let me share with you a few things I've learned during my tenure in public service. In my many jobs I've had, I strongly believe that I'm responsible for the well-being of my staff, even to the point of getting in trouble, honestly. And regardless of their position, it doesn't matter what position they held, they were still my responsibility. There is an exception for them. There's an expectation for them to express exactly how they feel, what they are thinking, and what they are thinking. It was my responsibility to assess their comments and to provide either change, mentoring, coaching, or education without a concern of retaliation. Staff also need to know that I was there for them, knowing I had their back, allowed them the freedom to do extraordinary things. Although my position may have been director, I really worked for my staff as I was there to help them accomplish their jobs. It was always better to ask for assistance than direct it. My way was not always the best way, and staff proved that many times. Many of the outcomes were extraordinary because they had that freedom to do it. And that was very evident initially with the PPR OEM, with the bomb cyclone, with the riots, and with COVID-19. It was very evident to let staff empower staff to do what they do best. Without the experience, professional, and support of county staff, I could not have achieved the many accomplishments listed in my resolution. To the county staff behind me, please accept my heartfelt appreciation and gratitude for your support in the past, today, and in the future as you continue to provide support to leadership in our community. I would like to thank our partners, the State of Colorado Emergency Management, all the non-governmental agencies, Federal Forest Service, State Forest Service, multiple religious institutions, volunteers, and the press for their never-ending support, no matter what the situation was. I could go through a litany of individuals that I'd like to thank, and that could take a while. 20 years, that's quite a list, right? And I want to be respectful of your time. I've already reached out to some of you and will continue to do so over the next couple of days to personally thank you. I haven't forgot about you. Finally, I want to thank the Board of County Commissioners for your support and trust and confidence. A great number of responsibilities were bestowed upon me by you and your predecessors. Over the last 2 decades, I did not take them lightly. I took them on with a strong sense of mission and service. Thank you. May God bless all of you, and thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Are there any comments from the commissioners?
I just wanted to thank you, Jim, for all that you've done. I know that the Black Forest residents really appreciated you being there during the Black Forest fire and the Waldo Canyon fire. It seems like we've had our share of fires, and also the flooding. I do remember a windstorm where we had tumbleweeds the size of taller than 9 feet out east. And I can't remember why I was driving out east at that point in time, but it was pretty amazing. We had to create something in Department of Public Works just to take out the tumbleweeds so people could manage the roads. But we appreciate all you do and your great leadership. And you need to remember to give your flowers to your wife at least, once every 2 or 3 months now, even as a retired. She's going to have to learn a little patience having you home more often. But we appreciate all of the organization that you've done to actually bring the city and county together with an Office of Emergency Management is probably one of the greatest successes that we've seen in this region for a long time. I also wanted to thank you too for the drills that you've had. I enjoyed going to those, talking to constituents and talking to them about what they needed to do in the case of a fire and how fast it could move. And so those were great ideas. I know that this office is well positioned to move into the future with the way that you've set it up. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, congratulations. I want to say a huge thank you for not only the huge service to our community, but I can absolutely say that anytime I had a question, I knew I could pick up the phone, give you a call, and you almost always answered immediately. And I was super grateful for that. I've learned so much from you and really grateful for the service to our community throughout all of those fires that were mentioned. Of course, the ones that come to mind for me are maybe the Bird's Eye fire and our direct interaction on those, but I was super grateful for the quickness and your reaction and calmness to all of those. And as I said, also being there to answer all those questions as I learned a lot about emergency management over the last couple of years. So thank you. I wish you the very, very best. And I hope that you get lots of rest and relaxation in your retirement.
Commissioner Geithner, that goes two ways because you also answered the phone immediately every time I called, so I appreciate that.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jim, congratulations. A lot of years of service to our community, and I just want to thank you and congratulate you for all the hard work that you've done for us. A lot of those things I remember going back to those early fires. I think on my second year, the 117, and then the Midway, the Fort Carson Midway fires. And a lot of people forgot how public works. They were cutting lines out there. They were doing a lot of that work that helped save some homes and save some properties and helped bring a faster end to those fires. And of course, what you had done before as well, and the Black Forest and the others on the Waldo Canyon fires. So I got to see it up front. We had the tire fires out there too. That was a couple days afterwards, trying to figure out how do you put out tire fires when you got petroleum in that. And so trying to figure out how to do that, work with the state and CDPHE, and then continue to see that in the great works that you did in the Office of Emergency Management. That was about 2 years worth of work trying to get that program up and running, and then we picked the right person to run it. And can't tell all the stories about how you and I were laughing. A lot of it was behind the scenes stuff, so I don't want to put that out there. But we meet, we say hermano, which means brother in Spanish, and I mean it because I think we really got along and we really understood how we needed to work together to do good for our community. And the one thing you kind of mentioned on it earlier when you talked about the filter, well, guess what? Commissioners need honest, forthright answers and honest answers, and it doesn't matter how somebody delivers that or what. We need answers, and every time I had a question for you, especially when it was hard and difficult, you gave me the hard, honest answers, and that's how we get things done. And you were the right guy for the right job, and I appreciate all that great work that you did for us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well said. And as is our tradition, we will let the sponsor of the proclamation finish up with the comments. So I will briefly jump in here. And, your comments talked about serving your country and your county. And I find the scope of that quite impressive, quite inspiring. And I think it's just who you are. I am grateful for your service for a long time here in various different roles. I wanted to point out something else that happened during the pandemic timeframe. One of the other many ways that you came to help the health department and others, but at one point there was the need to move people out of long-term care facilities and have a place for them to go. And then actually, I think a second time that was related to maybe a fire up north as well. And so because of the way you had handled that during COVID, and you kind of had a turnkey operation and lots of staff ready to help you facilitate really whatever our friends and neighbors around the state have looked to what you've built at our Office of Emergency Management, and they're trying to replicate it, but you can do it quickly and come and help them when they need it. And I think that's incredibly impressive. And I've been inspired every time you've answered the call to do that to help our other counties around the state, and sharing what you've built there, and certainly with a great team and staff behind you. So thank you very much for your service, and happy retirement to both of you. And Commissioner Vanderweer.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Jim, wow. It's been a great 6 years working with you. And, you may remember how it started. We held many, many meetings on a couple of topics. I was out there learning, brand new commissioner. One of those was about, how to improve the operations at DPW. And I remember several conversations about getting better at our capital inventory management and a few other things. And you had some great ideas, and it was always interesting to listen to those ideas, and I think we made an enormous amount of progress there. But I remember another instance when I went over to the emergency management office, and I was like, well, okay, I want to see the plans. Where are the plans? You've got to have plans. So you brought me, you and I think it was Lonnie also brought me over to a shelf and showed me all the plans, and you were actually in the process of getting them updated. And you and I know from both of our experience in the military, it isn't so much the plan, it's the planning that you do to get to the plan that reveals all these things that may work well, may not work well, and what we've got to change. But I remember those conversations. They were a lot of fun. And so that was some of what kind of where we got started. Now, I also want to thank you for your service in the military. Several of us here on the board have also served in the military, and we know what that means. And by the way, I think you got your candor from your service in the military. But one of the things that's important about that, and I think this is so true, sometimes commanders don't need smoke blown their way. What they need is truth. They need to know what's actually happening on the ground and what the issues are. And I can tell you in so many situations where I was leading an organization in the military, and I had a senior enlisted staff that would come to me and just give me the truth. And those were always exceptionally helpful. And you delivered that. And I thought that was actually really good. By the way, it was also sometimes a lot of fun when we had those conversations. But it's obvious from the work that I've done with you and the work that you've done on behalf of the citizens of El Paso County that you have a passion to serve, but you also have a passion for safety. And that did come out of your desire to fight fires, but it went way past that, didn't it? Just trying to ensure that people are safe from whatever it is. And when you were in the military, it was a foreign enemy. And when you were serving in local government, it was natural disasters. But these are all things that can harm people, harm American citizens. And you had a passion for doing everything you could to make sure that didn't happen. I thought that was pretty awesome. And then we came to the Pikes Peak Office of Emergency Management. And you are correct. Commissioner Gonzalez and I were on that initial negotiation team where we kind of set the basic parameters that got us to the agreement that ended up getting signed by the city and the county. And I remember several of those conversations we had. And, one of the things that I felt very strongly about was, hey, let's not worry too much about all the nuanced procedures. Let's just get the two organizations co-located and let the team figure out the procedures. Let the team figure out what equipment they'll use. Let the team find out who has better stuff than the other side, and just put that into the effort to make it happen. And we got there. We got there and we created this office. And I thought it was great. You were the right person to lead that. And it's evident to me the value of this Regional Office of Emergency Management. Because after its creation and the work to get it up and running, we've had several potential gigantic disasters that did not turn into gigantic disasters, but they could have been. And therein lies an interesting thing, in my humble opinion. When a potentially huge disaster doesn't become a huge disaster, it doesn't necessarily get a lot of news coverage, does it? Because it didn't turn into a big giant problem. But that was an indication of the team that was really actually delivering great outcomes, even better outcomes than we had before. And you were able to lead that, and I knew that you loved doing that. I could tell, because every time I ran into you, you had a big smile on your face, and like, yeah, we're doing this and doing that. But some of the things that went on in there I thought were also really fantastic, and I'll mention just one, and that's doing exercises. Getting communities involved in practicing how to evacuate their community in case there was a fire. And the two that come to my mind, they're both in my district. One was the Crystal Park exercise, and the other one was the Palmer Lake exercise. And in both of those cases, I participated to one degree or another, but it was very, very interesting. And for those of you that haven't been through an exercise, the ones we do here in El Paso County through PPR-OEM are really extensive. It includes having the Humane Society, for example, involved because people are bringing their pets out and the pets have to be taken care of. So there was an enormous amount of detail and background and considerations for a lot of things in those exercises. And it's always interesting to see a resident go through a practice exercise and see the lightning bulb go off above their head when they suddenly realize, oh my gosh, you're right, I do need to worry about this, or I do need to worry about that. But the key to those things were education and planning. And I think those exercises are going a long way to really helping to keep us all safe. And PPR-OEM, and with your leadership, was running those exercises, and it was great. So, you know, what this really means is you know how to serve, you have a passion, you pursued your passion, you helped people along the way. How could you ask for anything more than that? You know? And you can't. That's right. So at this point, I just want to wish you and your family the best, and wish you the best luck in your future endeavors. Whatever they are, you're going to have to tell us at least a few of those things. We want to hear what they are. I'm sure you're going to pursue a few hobbies and some other things that maybe are on a wish list, a bucket list that you haven't had a chance to get done. But I do want to wish you the best and thank you for your service. And there is no better way to have a great career than to serve other people, isn't it?
Thank you, Commissioner. Chair, if I may, Kenny, you've suffered my candor longer than Sonny has, and so I think Sonny got the better deal on that one. So I just want to say thank you because I know you took some pretty good beatings there for a while. But thanks for everything you've done for me getting this thing rolling. So,
Madam Chair, may I retort? Jim, most of what I would have to say is probably attorney-client privilege, but I just wanted to say thank you for your service to the community, and we're going to miss you.
yeah, I enjoyed it. Thank you, Sonny. Congratulations. I'm happy for you.
Thank you. And any final comments?
I'm just going to say it again. Thank you to the county staff. I mean, they just do phenomenal things, and I can't speak to the professionalism and the talent you have in this county. I've witnessed that over the last 20 years, and I just think you're so fortunate to have the staff that you have. So, the staff is really, they're the ones that bring you to the dance, and I appreciate them. So, thank you.
Thank you. With that, I will call the roll. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
A big aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 5-0. Congratulations. Happy retirement. And we'll take a quick recess for a photo.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we will call this meeting back to order, and we are now on item number 6. I understand we have our assessor. Treasurer. It was all I could do to not say clerk and recorder anymore. You will always be
That's all right.
the clerk and recorder. Here to give us a report.
Yeah. Thank you, Chairman Bremer, County Commissioner. I wanted to do a quick update of our office, something I want to do periodically to let you know how we're doing in the Treasurer's office. So I appreciate the opportunity. Can we get up on the screen? Oh, there we go. So first off, I want to talk about tax collections. The first major payment deadline was February 28th of 2023, and as such, it's a good time to take a look at where we stand in the current collection year. As of February 28th, we've collected $280,013,845.88, or approximately 39.09% of the $715,513,605.21 that is being billed on behalf of El Paso County and the 333 associated districts and entities, from fire district to municipalities to special districts. The collection rate of 39.09% is up slightly compared to last year by a couple tenths of a point, and it's up 4% over from 2 years ago. Breakdown of how those tax collections came to us. Nearly 50%, 46.8% of all tax payments are made by mortgage companies or their registered agents. We had 144,119 total transactions, which comprise $133,132,311.99. Now, those are mortgage companies pay in 2 installments. They usually pay the February 28th one and then the February 15th one. We'll see the second payment. In-office payments, people who come into our office, we've been very busy with almost 17,000 transactions over the counter for a total of $57 million in change. Scanner payments, people who mail their payments into us, 29,303 for a total of $58,830,000. Those we run through our scanners, so we open up, we make sure that the property owner made the proper payment. They go through our check scanners and they get immediately deposited into our bank. Our website and our over-the-phone payments is something that we've really been promoting here of recent. It's something that I did in the clerk and recorder's office. You know, I want to make government virtual. I want to deliver services in the manner that people want to do that. And more, they don't want to come to our office. They want to save the postage, so they can either go to our website and do payments. We had a little over 10,000 payments that were generated on our website for $29,307,000. And then over the phone, people can make payments through an IVR system and make those payments. And that's a little over a million too.
Mr. Treasurer, I have a quick question for you. Of that, how does this 46.8% of tax payments that are made through mortgage companies or through third parties, how does that compare to around the nation? I mean, to me, that says something about how probably relatively high percentage of people who own their homes outright.
You know, that varies throughout the various counties. When I checked in other counties, you know, you see a large variation based on the community. So that's probably about average as to what we see. But as we get more people like myself get closer to retirement age and paying off our houses, if we haven't already, you'll see that decrease. Now, a lot of people during the pandemic, in order to keep their business afloat, they may have taken a second mortgage and extended that time. So I think we see some of that also. But we're about typical.
Okay, thank you.
Next up, senior veteran homestead exemptions. So in February, in middle of February, we submitted to both the senior and veteran homestead exemption reimbursement to a report and the personal property exemption report to the state. We've heard nothing back from them. That's good. If there was an issue with our submittal, they would have let us know right away. So we're in good stead. We expect to receive, if the county does, from our senior and veteran homestead exemption, $15 million to be backfilled, and then of the personal property, $872,000, and we expect that payment to come in the middle of April. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the state of Colorado expanded property tax deferral program. So until last year, a number of years ago, the General Assembly enacted a program for homeowners who couldn't make their payments timely, that they had another option. We offer the installments where people can make 2 payments, but for some individuals, they cannot. And they can enter into a program, a deferral program, where it's actually a lien. It's a lien on the value of their home. And we work as treasurers, we work to try and give people other payment options, but it is kind of a program of maybe last resort. It's something that someone can do to keep their property taxes going to tax sales at the end of the year. It's something that we always kind of counsel people on, that, is that really what you want to do? Do you want to encumber that debt onto your home? And we've been able to, over years, for a lot of people, kind of make arrangement for that taxes to be paid. Last year, the General Assembly put in place where that was no longer a program that was under the purview of treasurers, county treasurers. It's now under the state treasurer. So it's an automatic program where people go online and kind of sign up for it. I'm concerned about the program because there's no real interchange with the property owner, fully informing them of what that is. It's awfully easy to sign up and get accepted for that. So it is a concern that we kind of have lost touch with that, with our local citizens, and giving them another option rather than to encumber their home. We're seeing an increase in people utilizing this program. So not only seniors and veterans, it's open to our military servicemen and women, which I'm concerned that with our servicemen and women, they see a lot of programs that are available for them because of the service they give to our community, and they think it's just one of many other services that they click on and sign up, not realizing that there is a lien, and if they want to keep their home and then they want to rent that home and go someplace else, that's going to make it a problem for them to rent their home out, because it has to be their primary residence. Last year, we had 47 people that, before the state program, that utilized that program. When I put this PowerPoint together, I had around 200, but I checked this morning, we have 227. So it is a resource for folks, but something that I have concerns and have talked to the state treasurer about. Next up, public trustee. I have some historical data. You guys know how much I like charts and graphs. So here is the foreclosure data that goes back to 1985, and you can see the peaks and valleys. The large peak there in 2008 and 2009 is when we had the economic debacle with the subprime market and Lehman going under. And the after effect of all that. And then we've been steadily going down in foreclosures, which is a good thing for our citizens. We had 770 people who had to go to foreclosure last year. We think that's going to still stay low. We think with the low interest rates of the last couple of years and with the high employment rate, I think the factors that might cause someone to go into foreclosure will be low. So we're kind of looking at probably about the same number this next year. And then next, this is a breakdown of foreclosures by month. That's the foreclosures that are started each month. Holly, you kind of know a little bit about that. What may start may not end. People may work out a deal with their mortgage company or go into bankruptcy that may end up not going to fruition there. And then the other thing the public trustee's office does is after you pay off your mortgage, you get that release of deed that you own that property. And here shows the ups and downs over the years. The high point, last year or several years ago, we had 47,000. So you see that high peak, because that's when interest rates were very low during the pandemic, and a lot of people paid off their loan and refinanced that. So we saw a lot of deed releases. But we're seeing a trend down as of right now. And here is our deed releases over the last 13 months. And then finally, our revenue and expenses for this past year. Our foreclosure fees, 770 of them last year for a revenue of $445,844.13. Our releases, we did over 37,000. We get $15 each for that, for $562,515, for a total of $709,848. Our expenses are largely our staff, mailing costs, internet costs, and stuff for our online auctions. We have to always make sure that we have enough in reserve for a full year. So last year we had to add to our reserves 52,000. This year we're having to add 24,000 for our costs, and the total amount that will be remaining to the general fund is $144,726. With that, final thing is we have been busy working on our next gen conversion program, moving from the VAX. It's been over 30 years that we've been on this platform. Yay us. We've come a long way since the first of the year, but we got a long ways to go. This is our last week of working on the functionality of the program, and the next 2.5 months will be used in user acceptance testing. We will do the shakedown of the software, making sure it worked with a go-live expectation with the assessor's office in August. So good news there, but I will give you updates as we go through those activities. With that, any questions?
Commissioner Williams.
Well, actually, I have 2 questions. How many employees does the treasurer's office have?
We have a total of 5.
Total of 5.
Yeah.
And how many of those are public trustee employees? I know you have Maria. She's been there a while.
Actually, I'm mistaken. I misspoke. 4. We have 4 employees. Maria, you got Tina, and you have Dana.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Cindy Simpson, who was with the treasurer's office, who, when that office came over, she's now the head of that department. Cindy Simpson is. So total of 4.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
All right. Thank you always
As
for
always,
your support.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, we are still on item number 6. Are there any other countywide electeds online? Okay, Commissioner Williams.
Yes, thank you. It's a beautiful day in Colorado. I did, in one of the comments that Treasurer Browerman mentioned, I think one of the concerns we have with our state legislature is their movement into saying that local government can't do things as well as they can. I always find that a danger, as I know that sometimes when you try to call state government, you never hear back from them. At least at local government level, you can go to your elected official, you can come to a commission meeting and receive information that you wouldn't otherwise. So as our state is moving towards looking at trying to take over some of the land use items, I think there should be great concern amongst the citizens. I think they should follow those very closely, because we can always allow 200 people to speak here when we have a tough land use issue. But if the state's going to tie our hands, then we do not actually appreciate that very much. The other things I wanted to mention was we were able to attend the sheriff's banquet on Thursday night, the awards banquet. It was very touching for me. You hear a lot of, I had the honor, and we're going to honor the dispatchers here in a couple of weeks. I had the honor of sitting with the dispatchers at their table and listening to their stories and watching their faces as the awards were given, because every single award that was given came through probably their phone system. Something we don't hear. I think I counted at least 5 incidents of employees of our deputies in the jail saving the life of someone. We don't hear about those. And those are very, very important employees to us as commissioners for the work they do in protecting the individuals who are in the jail. It was really hard to watch because when Deputy Andrew Puri died, I was actually had surgery, so I was not able to attend his memorial service. So that was really hard to watch. And it was hard to watch the deputies who handled K-9 Jinx. The amazing thing to me, there were some female deputies there, but the amazing brotherhood of these men who would stand in their own long blue line and give everybody hugs as they came through. It was a very emotional event, and it was very wonderful to attend that. And these are individuals, I will say, who run to danger and who save the lives of people. And Deputy Puri was mentioned in several of the incidents, including the one that took his life where he was running into the danger, trying to help on a call in a service that he had been called out on. So I was just very amazed at the amount of service that they give to us. I also wanted to speak about a legislative bill where they want to take away the right of women to choose whether or not to have an abortion or keep a baby. A crisis pregnancy center is a very valuable tool. We don't want the only abortion centers in the state of Colorado to be Planned Parenthood. The Crisis Pregnancy Center not only offers ultrasounds and counseling on the side effects of an abortion, but they also offer counseling to the father that is involved in that proceeding as the wife of someone who was adopted because a young 16-year-old was willing to go to California and have a baby and had the wisdom and judgment to give that baby up for adoption. I don't appreciate the fact that we are trying to eliminate choice so that women can have 2 or 3 places to go to advise them on whether or not to have an abortion. And I don't appreciate the state legislature getting involved in that. I would encourage citizens to go up and speak about that. I also want to say that I have 5 nieces and nephews who are adopted. And I don't think that the state legislature should be encouraging abortions because there are many families out there who need the opportunity to adopt children and need the opportunity to raise these children in loving homes. And so I would encourage our citizens to speak out on that as they are able and as it comes in front of the legislature. Thank you. Those are my comments.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'll thank Commissioner Williams for the many comments that she made regarding the El Paso County Sheriff's Awards Dinner. I'll talk about that in a minute. I'll start off with the Visitor and Convention Bureau annual update luncheon last week at the Olympic Museum that I attended, and at least attended with some of my fellow commissioners as well. That was a great lunch, and it was talking about the tourism activity in our community here and the fact that it is essentially fully recovered from COVID. There may be a few places where we're down a little bit, but even in an arena of hotel stays, we are essentially completely recovered. And in some other areas, we've actually exceeded where we were prior to COVID. So that was a great update. Also went to the State of the Downtown event at the Pinery, and they talked about the continued activity in the downtown area, which is in my district, with regard to improving the area, putting in more hotels, putting in more venues for people to enjoy coming to downtown Colorado Springs. That was a great event as well. And then I do want to now talk a little bit about the El Paso County Sheriff's Awards Banquet. And I'm going to echo a few of the things that Commissioner Williams said, but I think they're very, very important. Not only did they honor Deputy Peary at that, but the deputy's wife accepted an award on behalf of the deputy because of his great service to the community, and he was in several of the events that they highlighted. He was obviously very active in ensuring that we deliver public safety to El Paso County, which just makes his untimely death all the more sad. But I think Commissioner Williams' point is very appropriate. I was, before she said that, I was planning on saying it anyway, but now we'll have two commissioners that will have said it. It is a shame that all of these life-saving efforts, all of these public safety efforts, all of this heroism from the El Paso County Sheriff's Office never seems to make the paper, never seems to get out into public domain. What a shame. You know, those were fantastic, amazing stories, and they need to be told so that the citizens know the kinds of service and sacrifice that our local deputy sheriffs, both the warranted and also the staff, do on behalf of the citizens of El Paso County. It was an amazing dinner. It was a huge number of awards. It was an enormous amount of work. And it was, I don't know, at least a dozen lives that they've saved, if I seem to recount right. It was amazing to me. I also want to talk a little bit about some of the federal legislature activities that we are working on. And I want to highlight for the some comments that we're now starting to see regarding Space Command retention. And there was a article from the Washington Post. While it was an opinion piece, I think it might be indicative of what ultimately will happen here. And I'll read a quote here in the opinion piece from the Washington Post. The White House appears ready to reverse a plan to relocate U.S. Space Command from Colorado Springs to Huntsville, Alabama, because it fears the transfer would disrupt the operations at a time when space is increasingly important to the military. So while we still don't have a decision from the President's administration or from the Department of Defense on this yet, there now seems to be some words coming out in the press in different areas where we might, in fact, have actually succeeded in keeping Space Command here in Colorado Springs, which is the right thing to do for both keeping mission risk lower and also needlessly spending $10 billion in taxpayers' money to move a capability from one place to another and get absolutely nothing else for it. So I am hopeful that kind of the indicators that we're starting to see will prove out to be true, and I look forward to an announcement from the administration soon. Also want to talk briefly about several of the things going on at the state legislature. I imagine all of us commissioners will have a comment or two on that, but it is just a terrible situation that's going on in the state legislature. Now, we had last night a Pikes Peak Firearms Coalition meeting. And I'll talk a little bit about that, and I'll come back to the legislature. We had two speakers. The first one was Matt Mayberry, who's the director of the Pioneers Museum. And for those of you that don't know, they have a wonderful firearms collection, including General Palmer's firearms, which I thought was fascinating. They don't have a lot of it on display, but I think if you make a special request, you could go down into the basement, into their storage, secure storage, and see some of the firearms. It's hundreds of different types of firearms that are illustrative of the history of the West here in El Paso County. The other speaker we had was the director of the Colorado Sports Shooting Association, who's been testifying on the Hill against these egregious bills, most of which are not constitutional. And therein lies, I think, the real problem. The state legislature, many of these that are introducing these bills, don't care, won't listen, seem to be uninterested in the Constitution of the United States, just putting something out there and hoping that it sticks. But in reality, what's really going to happen is we're going to spend an enormous amount of time and money, all wasted effort, because many of these bills will be stopped shortly after the legislature is over through an injunction started by a lawsuit, and then ultimately in court they will be proven to be unconstitutional and they will be removed. And in the end, we will have spent millions of dollars, tons of man years of effort wasting everybody's time on legislation that isn't even constitutional to begin with. And once again, the real problem doesn't get addressed, which is mental health and the strength of families. Once again, the real issues never get dealt with, because it seems like there's some people in the legislature that just want to talk about the device that is in the hand and not what's in the person's heart or in their head, which is what the real issue is. What a waste of time. What a waste of money. And in the end, it will absolutely solve nothing. So those are my comments for this morning, and I hope that we'll continue to fight and address these egregious bills, some of them with regard to Second Amendment rights, but there are many others that we can also talk about. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'll just start off with I want to give prayers to the victims from the Nashville shooting and thank the first responders whose quick and timely actions kept it from being even worse. So tragedy, and you just want to keep them in our thoughts. And with that as well, talking about life and the importance of it, as was mentioned. Thank you, Commissioner Williams. I mentioned it last week. I think it's SB 190 that would restrict pregnancy resource centers from doing their jobs and giving the option for life. So I hope people will let the legislature know about how that should be vetoed if it gets passed, because we should not be restricting people's pro-life options in the state. Also, want to highlight, I think we've already been mentioned the awards ceremony for the Sheriff's Department last week. And so I won't expand anymore, but it was a wonderful, uplifting at the same time, but remembering Deputy Peary as well, and his life and service and dedication to our community. And then I did for events coming up, military speakers luncheon, I think is Thursday afternoon or Thursday, and then City Council farewell on Thursday for those that are leaving from their time in office. I'll get to that as well. So thank you.
Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lots of important things brought up today, so I don't want to belabor any of those points, but want to also say I also attended the awards banquet. We were all there, and I think that is a real testament to how much we support our law enforcement officers in this community, and that's a really important thing in the climate that we are in right now. We know that that is not always the case in every community, and I'm very grateful that we do have that here in El Paso County. A couple of the bills that were mentioned are also on my radar, along with a few other things. Absolutely, the attack on crisis pregnancy centers is disturbing to me. I think it was maybe around a year ago now that I mentioned in one of these meetings that there were folks on the federal level that were trying to attack crisis pregnancy centers. And so that has now trickled down to our state level. I think outside of the important things that have been brought up around women's right to choose where they want to get their care and what they want in those situations, that is important. But I also want to point out that the services that are provided by many of those centers, whether it's diapers and formula or clothing up to age 2. I know one of the centers here provides that up to age 2. And the mentoring, all of the work that goes into helping to build strong families is incredibly important. And I think has a direct nexus to what we do here at the county, because without those private nonprofit organizations providing that level of support to people in our community, that could put an extra burden on government. And so it is very important to me, as I know it is to my colleagues here, to do what we can to point out how important those services are in our community. I too pray for the families in Tennessee who unimaginably lost children. And this is a hard conversation, and we're talking about this today, but it's necessary and it's relevant to not just politicize what is going on, but to talk about real causes and real solutions. I think that it is clear that the easy thing to do would be to blame guns. But I think that there's plenty of research that shows that that is not the case. I think that's a political agenda that is being pushed through a terrible tragedy, as it often is. I heard a statistic just on my way in this morning on the news about the fact that there were more guns per capita previously in the United States prior to the 90s, but we didn't start seeing situations where we had school shootings until after those numbers began to fall. So just simply trying to impose these rules because we must do something is not necessarily the answer here. And I think we have to be able to have those conversations with clarity, with data, and recognize that, again, the mental health issues are real concerns. And I think both with the recent Club Q shooting here and some of the information coming out from that very tragic incident in Tennessee, I think that it's time for us to have a real conversation about what some of those things are. And so I look forward to hearing more about the data on those and looking for solutions that make more sense for our communities than depriving law-abiding citizens with their rights. I think some of the things that have happened, including the Supreme Court Bruin decision that came out of New York, which showed that government deprived citizens of their rights for over 100 years. That's egregious. And yes, our state legislature absolutely should take note that just because they can pass a bill knowing that it was absolutely constitutional and forcing people to spend all kinds of money to get through the court system to deal with that, that's egregious. That is a terrible overreach. And so I too urge our legislature to reconsider those things that they are bringing forward. On a positive note, I was really excited to hear and see about the Parent Bill of Rights that was passed at the federal level in the House. I think it is well past time that we recognize that parents should have input into their children's lives, that they are the most important part of their children's lives. So I was very encouraged to see that. I'm glad to see a movement of parents and moms paying attention to what's going on in their schools and in classrooms and in their day-to-day lives. And I think that we need to continue speaking out about that. There are several bills going through the legislature that have some concerning pieces in them, quite frankly. When we get to the point where we are trying to essentially tell students to keep secrets from their parents or keeping any information about a student's educational or social interactions at school, if we are trying to keep those from parents, we've got a real problem. Government continues to grow, and that's what the underlying theme is of all the things that we're talking about today, is the government growing and having more and more intervention and control over individual lives. That is completely antithetical to the founding of this nation. And I think that the work that this board is doing, I very much appreciate the continued effort to push back against that. There is nothing good that comes from consolidating power at higher levels of government. Thank you.
Well said, Commissioner Geithner, and actually all of my colleagues have spoken very eloquently. I find it ironic that that we began commissioner comments today in kind of somber remembrance and a wonderful celebration as well of our local sheriff's deputies and our local public safety responders. I think, I think polling says that public safety here in our region is the #1 issue, and that at the same time we're talking about all of these other things in legislative moves that are making it harder and harder for us to deal with what is in our citizens' mind the #1 issue. I actually had to ask because there are probably 10 different things I can think of for why our flags would be at half-mast today. And sadly, it's the Nashville shooting. But again, it could have been one of a handful of other things we've seen happening even a lot closer to home to us in the last week. So, my prayers are with all the families affected, and obviously there's those tragedies that happen, like with the Nashville school shooting. That's very public. It's very prominent. But we have things happen like that closer to us every single day, and then also I wanted to just my condolences and loving thoughts and prayers go out to the Doherty High School family as well, where a student was hit in a crosswalk right in the middle of my district near Barnes and Austin Bluffs. So I am glad to see that D11 and the City of Colorado Springs have been working closely to make some safety improvements there. And but my heart goes out to that family and the family that's overseas and gets news that their wonderfully performing student here, who was a guest in our country, a guest in our schools and in our county, tragically lost her life there. So continued prayers for the entire Doherty family, and huge kudos to some swift responses in making improvements there. With that being said, are there any other comments from elected officials? Okay. Item number 7.
Item number 7 is community service organization reports, and there are none. Item number 8 is public comments on items not scheduled on the agenda. This is the public's opportunity to speak on an item not scheduled on today's agenda. And Madam Chair, I didn't have anyone sign in ahead of time.
Hearing none in the auditorium, are there any online? Okay. Item number 9. I'm sorry, we did item number 9. Item number 10.
Item number 10 is the called up consent calendar, and there are no items called up.
And item number 11.
Item number 11 is the application by Los Compadres Liquor Store 2, LLC, doing business as Los Compadres Liquor Store 2, to renew the retail liquor license located at 640 Peterson Road, Commissioner District 2, continued from March 21st, 2023. Jackie Allred, Clerk to the Board Manager. And Madam Chair, Ms. Carmen Garcia is here to present today.
Come forward and state your name for us, and we will begin this hearing. Yes, please.
Carmen Garcia.
Ms. Clerk, do we have any documents that need to be read into the record for this hearing?
I don't have any that need to be read into the record. I can provide a little additional backup just for the board. Just as a reminder, they had a state violation of the liquor code on June 22nd of 2022. The current owner, which is Carmen Garcia, took possession of this after the violation occurred through change of corporate structure. And the individual that was cited for the selling, serving of the alcohol beverage to the 19-year-old liquor enforcement underage purchaser is no longer employed with the business. But I believe she can answer any questions if you have them for her.
Okay, great, thank you. And as our clerk said, our the process is that when you apply for renewal of this, if there's been any violation, it kind of automatically ends up in front of us. So if you have anything that you would like to say, you're welcome to do so. I think we already have a question maybe from Commissioner Williams.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for coming, Ms. Garcia. I am glad that you've taken over the business. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And also, that this occurred before your watch, and the appropriate actions were taken, and those are the important things. I think that's the question I had. So I'm happy to support you in your continued operations. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So wonderful that we don't have that same person there anymore. Are there additional, things that you've learned maybe after seeing what happened in this past experience? Are there additional trainings or are there additional safeguards that you've been able to put in place to make sure that the folks that you do have employed there now are going to be following the rules appropriately?
Absolutely. We contact Mr. Lucero, and he took care of that. So he did. We did a class with him.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, I also want to express my appreciation for your coming here to speak to us today, and also for the discretion the commissioners had, I think it was last week, to allow this to be continued so that you could appear in front of us. I appreciate the fact that this person that caused this problem is no longer employed by you. What I do want to hear from you is what do you now have in place to make sure that you don't have another challenge like this? What have you, I mean, we have writings here about some things, but I'd actually like to hear it from you about what you're doing to make sure we don't have a future violation like this.
Well, we kind of follow Mr. Larry Lucero advice to just, anyone 50 or younger, we have to ID, and we kind of follow that rule, and it have worked.
Okay, so that's in place now at this point.
Yes,
Yeah, basically asking for the ID for almost everybody.
almost everybody.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's great. And the employees are properly trained. If they're underage, no sale. Right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
And Madam Chair, just for the board's benefit, Mr. Lucero does the TIPS training for the Department of Revenue Liquor Enforcement, and so that's what she's referring to.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here today. Any other things you would like to add?
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then for our clerk and/or our attorney, are there any specific things that need to be included in this motion, or just a motion for approval?
Correct. Just a motion to approve the renewal application.
Commissioner Geithner.
Yes, so since it's in my district, I'd love to make the motion to approve item 11.
Second.
That has been moved and seconded to approve this liquor application. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 5-0. Good luck with your business.
Thank you. Thank you.
Item number 12.
Item number 12 is department and committee reports, non-action items, and there are none.
Item number 13.
Item number 13 is the addendum, and there are no addendums today.
Okay, I am going to call this particular meeting in recess, and we're going to jump over to our PID meetings. So Board of County Commissioners meeting temporarily in recess. And we have Pioneer Village Roads Public Improvement PID meeting. Would like to call that meeting to order. Item number 1.
Item number 1 is a request to approve reappointments to the Pioneer Village Roads Public Improvement District Advisory Committee. Ingrid Mobley, Administrative Assistant, Administrative Services.
Madam Chair, so this is in my district. I did receive a positive recommendation from staff on all the committee appointees, and so I move to approve item 1, the request to approve reappointments to the Pioneer Village Roads Public Improvement District Advisory Committee.
And I'll second.
That has been moved and seconded. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 5-0. Item number 2.
Item number 2, request to approve the Pioneer Village Roads Public Improvement District December 6, 2022 minutes. Jackie Allred, Clerk to the Board Manager.
And I'll just move to approve.
Second.
That has been moved and seconded. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 5-0. And this PID meeting is adjourned. And we will come back out of into order for the regular Board of County Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, March 28th. And we are on item number 14.
Item number 14 is the executive session. 14A, executive session pursuant to CRS 24.6, 402, 4B, and 4E regarding county employee collective bargaining, CRS 8-3.3-101, to address the following: conference with the county attorney's office for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions and determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators. Kenneth Hodges, County Attorney. Nathan Whitney, Senior Assistant County Attorney.
And that is a request for executive session. Can I hear a motion?
I move we go into executive session for the purposes stated on the record.
Second.
That has been moved and seconded. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. We are in executive session.